There's a fairy tale-like beauty that is in this show, because it is uniquely medieval, twisted and intertwined with folk tales, superstitious beliefs and paralyzing fears. Fairy tales and stories pulsating to life, bringing with it long-forgotten old traditions. Which brings us to our next mystery: what are the talismans, or I should say, why do the talismans work? To begin with, it's important to understand what a talisman is by definition, and according to Collins Dictionary, a talisman is an object believed to have powers to protect those who use it. From that definition, the show seems to embrace the tales and lore that harkens from the past with its mysterious and dark nightmarish rituals. Talismans have been used for countless generations all across the world by all sorts of cultures for countless years, so when the talisman turned up in this show, it was unique indeed. So the question still stands: why does the talisman work? The reason why this question is prudent is because the show has sci-fi roots, so, by that genre standards, how is the talisman working in this context, without the mystical, unexplainable aspects of it? Well, to be perfectly honest, I'll start by saying what is mystical or magical depends on the person's knowledge and point of view. For example, a person that takes penicillin and gets well may seem like a miracle to those who may not know about antibiotics. The same could be said about technology like an X-ray machine. Which brings us back to the talismans, and the possible principles behind their protective umbrella. So, let's try to break it down. We have to understand what the talisman's purpose is for, and that is to protect those inside the house from the predators outside.
Safe from what?
Megan, what are you doing?
Maybe I can come in.
In other words, the talismans are a form of home security or defense against predatory threats. The talismans may seem mythical or mysterious, but it's nothing really new if we look at it from a different point of view. For example, in nature, predator and prey species both have adaptations that help them perform better in their roles. For instance, prey species have defense adaptations that help them escape predation. These defenses may be mechanical, chemical, physical, or behavioral. And I believe from just that definition that any one of these three could be used or apply in part or in whole to the talisman. So, we'll break down the possibilities of which one fits best for how the talisman works. Will it be chemical? Will it be physical? Will it be behavioral? So, follow me down this rabbit hole as we try to figure out how the talisman works. We'll start first with chemical. Could it be something chemically about the talisman that are repelling or causing the creatures from not entering the house? First of all, the answer is yes. There could be something about the talismans that could be repelling the creatures, and because the town doesn't have a lithoscope to see if the talisman is indeed a mineral or a rock. It could indeed have chemical properties that are repelling the creatures, such as what is found in a citronella candle. In fact, citronella oil repels mosquitoes and does not kill them. Instead, it masks the carbon dioxide and lactic acid scents that mosquitoes are searching for. Generally, insects will have a much more difficult time locating you when you have applied citronella oil. Another example of a chemical defense is the skunk. While skunks might use their spray as a defense mechanism, the odor left behind is more offensive than anything. The extremely foul smell can last for 3 weeks, and the longer it sits, the harder it is to remove. Could the talisman be giving off some sort of chemical odor that is repulsive to the creatures? Yes. Just like garlic or onion, we just don't know. But the possibility is certainly there. I believe a strong case can be made that there is something chemical about the talismans that is repulsive to the creatures. It's funny, the irony of this being some sort of chemical repulsion to the creatures hasn't been missed on me in connection with the vampiric part of this show and garlic. The next type of defense we're going to be examining is physical. First of all, we know that normal physical barriers don't work with these creatures. They're able to break through almost any sort of defense to get inside without the talisman's protection. So, at first glance you can say, what kind of physical defense could a stone put up against the creatures? But apparently something is working. There could be something physical about the talismans. I'll explain. Take for example an electrical fence. More specifically, an electrical fence that keeps cattle penned in. Here's a picture. Yep. That's it. Thin wires. Nothing that really screams blockade or keep out. But it works. Those thin wires hold back a herd of cows, each one of them weighing close to 1,700 pounds or 772 kilograms. You may ask, what's keeping the cattle from busting through the fence? And that's a good question. because the cattle can easily stampede the fence with no problem, or break through that line of defense. So what's stopping them? You see, the electric fence sends only a small electric pulse. This is designed to deter the animal from wandering too close. After a while, it creates a psychological barrier in the cattle's brain, keeping them within the confines of the fence. So even though this herd is massive with a lot of force and power behind them, the fence works on two levels. Not only does it block them to some extent, the most powerful part of this fence is its psychological barrier that's in place. You see, the cattle are locked in or penned in by their own fear. Powerful, isn't it? The question is now, could the talisman have that same effect on the creatures? First, one thing is clear: the talismans are not highly electrified, from what we see by the people handling them. So what else could they be other than electrified? Well, they could be magnified. I'll explain. Magnetite is a special kind of rock, with smooth surfaces that are heavier than typical rocks. Sounds kind of like the talismans and how they look. Let's go on. Magnetite is very magnetic, hence its name. It sticks to magnets. Magnetite is made of a metal called iron. Wow. This really does sound promising, doesn't it? So, let's break it down. Instead of the talisman being electrified like the cattle fence, the talismans could be magnified like the magnetite. But, to an extreme degree, this fits, because this magnifying aspect of the talisman could have some sort of repulsive effect on the creatures and stop their egress into a home. The question is, could this physically stop the creatures from coming inside a house? We don't know, but, could it be psychologically keeping the creatures from coming inside? That's a very strong possibility. Just like the cattle who weigh thousands of pounds are deterred by a thin wire, the talisman's magnetic effects could do the same to the creatures. A quick side point: the talisman's psychological effects could also change the creature's behavior, in ways that the creatures realize that they cannot come into a home without asking first for permission. That's why they work overtime and trying to deceive the people inside the home in order for them to gain access. Which is a great segue into our next deterrent, and that is, are the talisman's defensive powers based on some sort of behavioral aspect? This part is very interesting, because it delves deep into the psychology of how predators behave. Let me clarify what I mean. To understand this, we have to look at this particular butterfly. The eye spots on this butterfly's wings are big enough to scare full-grown chickens. The name of this butterfly is the peacock butterfly, and the 4 eyes on the wings are a very effective defense mechanism. But in this particular part we're not going to focus on the butterfly, but the chicken. It seems the chicken behavior is inhibited by the eyes on the butterfly wings so much that its behavior has changed. Could this be something the talisman is doing to the creatures? We don't know, but it is possible. The talisman could be giving off a signal, or energy of something bigger and more predatorial than the creatures themselves, which keeps them at bay. So in the end, the talisman could have multifaceted functioning aspects to it that keeps it extremely effective against the creatures, and in this video we try to clarify what could be the possible properties of what makes this talisman so effective. But again, this is just a theory. We're playing blindfolded piñata, where we're having fun just playing the game and seeing if we come close to breaking open our candy-filled prize. And as we all know, no party is fun without all of you participating. So please leave your comments below of what you think about the talismans, and the possible powers they may hold, and as always, thanks for watching.